Welcome back. Last Monday, the House Intelligence Committee held its first open hearing on Russia since President Trump's inauguration. The result? That bombshell confirmation that the FBI is indeed investigating the Trump campaign's potential ties to Russia. And a chaotic back and forth between the committee's top two members after the chairman briefed the president, whose campaign his committee is supposed to be investigating. All this calling into question whether the House can conduct a credible investigation. And it appears now that investigation could be falling apart before our eyes. So this week, the Senate Intelligence Committee will get its turn to prove that someone in Congress can credibly investigate this in a bipartisan way. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia is the top Democrat on the Senate Intel Committee, and he joins me now. Senator, welcome.
Good morning.
Look, I want to get right to getting your reaction to what FBI Director James Comey said when he testified that they are indeed investigating ties between the Trump campaign and Russia.
Well, Chuck, I want to talk about Russia as well, but we just saw the first half of this show talk about the failure of Trump care to take place. The reason was nobody talked about the details of the bill. It would have cost 24 million Americans their health care. It would have raised prices for seniors. It was a major tax cut for the wealthy. It was an $800 billion cost shift to the states to pick up the cost of Medicaid. It was an awful bill, and I think people across the country revolted against it. Sometimes the substance actually matters. Now, in terms of Russia, this is, I've said before, this is the most important thing that I've ever done in my public life. And what I know now, as I get more and more into this, I'm going to double down on that statement because it's extraordinary. We have the FBI director admitting that there is investigations going on. Right. We know that the Russians massively interfered in our elections with both hacking. They had 1,000 paid internet trolls that managed to take over and flood the zone with fake news. And we have a series of people that are very closely affiliated with the president who've had extensive ties with Russia, including the fact 60 days into the administration, we've got both the NSA director, or National Security Advisor, who had to resign, and the Attorney General had to recuse himself because of those ties.
Let me ask you this, though. How much does an active investigation in the FBI actually hamper the Senate Intelligence Committee's ability to do investigation? I mean, isn't it plausible the FBI says can't turn over some of these materials because we're not done?
Well, there have been prior examples. Think back to Watergate. There was a DOJ investigation going on along with a congressional investigation.
You think you can do both?
We're going to have to be able to do both. I talk regularly with Director Comey. There will be times when we'll have some, I'm sure, brush-ups. We start our process in terms of open hearing this week, but we already have terms of reference. We have incredible access to information at the CIA. We're going to have to get more information. We've already started interviewing witnesses. We've got a long way to go to get this done, but we're going to get it done in a bipartisan way.
Now, as you saw on the House side, you had the House Intelligence Chairman, Devin Nunes, claim that he has now seen some raw intelligence reports that perhaps confirm that that there was at least some inadvertent surveillance of folks connected to the Trump campaign. Have you seen any of this material? What is he referring to?
I am totally mystified by what Mr. Nunes has said. And I've talked to my chairman, Richard Burr. He doesn't know. I've talked to Democrats, Republicans on the committee. I think it's fairly mystifying, if not outrageous, that he make these claims, then goes down and briefs the White House. And I know Adam Schiff, the lead Democrat, still wants to keep the investigation bipartisan. I don't think Mr. Schiff even knows today what those documents are.
We have talked a couple of times, and you have hesitated on endorsing the idea of an independent commission. John McCain has been the biggest champion of this, saying, at this point, maybe it can't be done inside of Congress. What do you say to that?
Well, listen, if we could get an independent commission, I'm open to that. That means you got to pass a bill. The president's got to sign it.
So that's movement on you. You were not there a week ago, even 2 weeks ago.
And then you got to have a big debate about who's going to be on it. I think we've got a committee, and I've got Tom Cotton on the committee and Ron Wyden. We cross all of the political divides. And frankly, we've got bipartisan support. Serious Republicans, Roy Blunt, Marco Rubio, Susan Collins, James Lankford, Richard Burr, all saying we're going to go where the intel leads.
Well,
why not use that process?
I want to ask you about Richard Burr and your trust and faith in him. The White House asked both Devin Nunes at one time and Richard Burr to essentially help push back against one of these New York Times stories, and they both did in some form or another. Does that call into question Senator Burr's ability to be bipartisan in this, and do you trust him?
We've had some bumps. but I am working very closely with him right now.
You trust him?
I trust him that we will get this done, and we have a list of witnesses that I think you will see that is comprehensive, and we're going to talk to everybody involved.
All right, and Paul Manafort apparently made a statement that he's willing to testify before the House and the Senate intelligence investigations. When would we see somebody like Paul Manafort?
Well, what you first is you've got to get your information, you've got to get all the raw intelligence, you've got to build your case. You only bring in those kind of witnesses at the appropriate time, and we will bring them in.
Is that like a 3 month, 6 month? Outline the timeline here.
What we've got to do is we're going to have the public hearing. We're going to continue to do as much as we can in public. But we've got a lot more raw intelligence that we've got to go through, because when we bring in people like Mr. Manafort or others, we want to know not some spectacle. We want to be able to ask the right questions.
And you, as you know, you brought up Adam Schiff. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. He said to me earlier this week, he said there is more than just circumstantial evidence, and that there is some evidence of collusion that's going to come out. Is that your contention?
I'm going to simply say what I said at the outset. Weeks ago, when I was first getting started to this, I said this is the most important thing I've ever worked on. With what I know now, I doubly believe that. This is the most serious effort. It has to be done bipartisan. We have to get the facts out to the American people.
You keep saying there's a lot more smoke.
There's a lot more smoke.
You think the fire's there?
Listen, time will tell. But what we do know is the Russians massively intervened, and they're doing the same thing right now in France and Germany.
And before I let you go, Neil Gorsuch, is it worth filibustering his confirmation vote, or do you believe he should have a vote on the floor of the United States Senate?
What I believe in terms of Mr. Gorsuch, bright guy, but I was very disappointed with his answers. He was not even willing to acknowledge that bedrock cases like Brown versus Board of Education are part of our existing,
But there's voting no and there's preventing a vote. Where are you?
Yeah, listen, time will tell. I want to review more of his cases before I decide.
So you haven't made a decision on filibuster?
Have not made a decision yet, but I was not pleased with his answers, both I got personally or at the committee level.
All right. Senator Mark Warner, the public will be seeing a lot of you later this week with that first intelligence hearing. Thanks very much.